Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Gridiron Football Player of the Week. I'm your host, Jace Lanier. I'm joined by Alex Allison. And first, I want to tell everybody Happy Halloween. Hope everybody's having a great Halloween on this fine Thursday morning. And instead of the tricks, giving out tricks out here today, we're going to give out some treats. And that's our Gridiron Football Player of the Week nominees. And Alex, we had ourselves a really good week for Gridiron Football Player of the Weeks. We had 15 great candidates we're about to go over. And once again, it came down to the very end. It came down right to the wire. One of our closest battles we've ever had here for Gridiron Football Player of the Week. So we're about to break it down. But Alex, thanks for joining.
Of course. This is it's Halloween. I thought, maybe it would be a good idea to go come out here with a costume, but I had a
Yeah,
little bit of a hard time scrambling out this morning. I couldn't even find an indoor place to do this, so hopefully I don't get rained on. But it's on a serious note. Of course, happy Halloween to everybody. Not giving out any candy, but we are giving out a Letterman jacket patch as we do every single week, as well as the results for the Gridiron Football Player of the Week. Glad to be here, of course, just like every other Thursday.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get right to it. Like I said, we're going to give out some treats today. We're more on the treat side of things than the trick side of things. So let's get down to it. So at number 15 is a quarterback who was actually on this list just last week. So Alex, tell us who kicks off this list at number 15.
At number 15, we have Jacob Gouchette with 14 votes.
Yeah, Jacob made our list last week and had a little bit more votes. Was up there a little bit higher on the list last week, but once again, pretty good 2 week stretch for Jacob. And this week, he had another very good performance, very efficient for the Willow School down there in New Orleans. Jacob completed 19 of 22 passes for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also ran the football a little bit. Had 3 carries, 10 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. So add the numbers up, 343 yards, 5 total touchdowns, and a big win for the Willow School, winning 50-28 over Ben Franklin.
This was a touchdown vulture day. You love it when your rushing stat line is 3 carries for 10 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
But the important part, especially when you're talking about a quarterback stat line, is the fact that he was able to lead those 2 touchdown drives. Whether his running back got it at the end or he got it, a lot of those passing yards probably came in those drives, and he just happened to get the touchdown on the ground. This is a 5 touchdown performance for a quarterback in a big win, a big margin, and 300 passing yards on that level of efficiency. Those are Jared Goff numbers. Those are, think of those really efficient quarterbacks. That's what this looks like. This is really impressive, and this is another great week from Jacob. Didn't quite get the same support as he did last week, but that doesn't make the performance itself any less worthy of being a finalist for Player of the Week.
Yes, Alex, really good performances kick off our list, and we're going to start off with the quarterbacks, I guess, because we go from number 15 to number 14 to another quarterback. In fact, one of the best in the Baton Rouge area, Alex, who's at number 14.
At number 14, we have Tylon Johnson with 139 votes.
Yeah, Tylon Johnson is one of the leading passers in the Baton Rouge area. Very accomplished player, 3-year starter guy, multiple all-district selection as well. Great quarterback. We've been following him for years. And Tylon Johnson, they have a big game tonight, by the way. As this show, as you're seeing it live, they're having a big game for the district championship against the U-High Cubs as we speak right now. And Tylon Johnson is as good as it gets. And talk about as good as it gets. Talk about his performance as good as it gets, right? When you only have 7 completions, right? But 6 of them went for touchdowns. That is insane. He completed 7 of 10, to be precise, 147 yards and 6 touchdowns. They won the game easily over Collegiate, 76-0. And Tylon Johnson, a pretty easy day at the office when you can complete 7 passes and 6 of them land in the end zone. That is very incredible. Like we said a lot on the show, that's hard to do in practice against air, or let alone in a football game. So very impressive performance for Tylon Johnson. Let's see this high passing, efficient passing offense can continue to click, because they got a big challenge tonight.
We talk a lot on the show about, great passing stat lines. We just had one from Jacob Goucher, where oftentimes a good phrase you can talk about is how you have more touchdown passes than you have incompletions, right? First off, Tylon just doubled the touchdown to incompletion number, which is ridiculous. But also something I find funny is the fact that he has more incompletions than he has completed passes where the person got tackled. Completed passes that weren't touchdowns.
Yeah, you're right.
He was in order more likely to throw a touchdown pass than he was to throw an incompletion than he was to throw a non-touchdown completion.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It feels like these numbers keep getting more stupid every week, incrementally more stupid.
Yep.
Week 1 we had he had 12 touches and 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then by week 5 it was, he had 5 rushes for 4 touchdowns. And now he has 7 completions for 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, one of these days we're going to be sent a typo, and it's going to be someone who had 8 touchdown passes on 7 completions, and that's when we'll know that the world is completely messed up.
Yeah, we're a little too much there. A little too much. But for now, this is amazing. Doesn't matter who you're playing. You can't do that against air. Really impressive from Tylon Johnson, a very explosive offense, and they're going to get a really big test, a chance to knock off probably the favorites in their district to win that district this week tonight. As we're talking, as Madison Prep takes on UI. Yeah, as you're speaking, make sure to follow on Gridiron Football on X. Our guy Daryl Felker will be at the game tonight to bring you live updates of that football game. We'll also have a post-game article, including highlights on our website after the game. Either that'll be late tonight, or you can just wake up early tomorrow morning. You'll be able to see the entire recap. So check that out, and we'll see if Tylon has another Player of the Week type performance. Now, let's go to number 13. Speaking of playing in a big-time game, it was a player. He was just on the short end of the stick in terms of his team winning, but he had himself a great performance. Alex, who's at number 13?
At number 13, we have Brent Gordon with 301 votes.
So Brent Gordon is what you said from Cecilia High School, and Brent Gordon was all over the football field for the Bulldogs. Playing for Cecilia, they came up short. They lost by a point, 28-27 to Opelousas. This game was actually played in the Superdome last year. This was a rematch of a state championship last year. They happened to be in the same district, so it shows you that they know each other pretty well. Now, Brent Gordon, talk about this stat line. 4 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Okay, that's pretty decent, right, on offense. But it's what he did on defense that really set himself apart to be on this list. 21 tackles for a safety. That is that is incredible. 21 tackles for a linebacker is insane. But this is coming from the safety position for Cecilia. 21 tackles. 14 of them were by himself, were solo tackles. He also had 2 forced fumbles, a TFL, and the cherry on top, also blocked a punt in the game. He did everything necessary for the Bulldogs to win this football game, and they just came up 1 point short to a really good defending state champion Opelousas team. Man, what a performance by Brent Gordon. He did what he needed to do for sure in order for the Bulldogs to have a chance to win this game.
It's hard to imagine Cecilia loses any football games at this point. Right. This is the third, I believe, the third straight week that we've had a Cecilia player on the list, and it's the third different Cecilia player to be on the list. We had Diesel Solare at quarterback, and then we had Ellis Stewart also at quarterback.
Yep.
And now we have this dude playing both ways all the time. And usually when we have a stat line like this, it's some guy that has some crazy wide receiver stat line or crazy running back stat line that also happens to record 1 pass breakup, 2 tackles. But they played the whole time on defense, and that helps make the entire performance more impressive. This is the opposite. This was a honestly really solid performance on offense. Catching a touchdown pass, that's always big. 76 yards, nothing to sneeze at. But it's the defensive performance that really makes this list, on top of just being able to play the entire time with all the tackles. 21 total tackles is really impressive, but assisted tackles sometimes can be a little bit weird. It's the 14 solo tackles that really stands out alongside the blocked punt and the forced fumble, tackle for loss, all of that. This is the guy that made his impact on the game in all three phases, which you don't oftentimes see, even when you're talking about finalists for Gridiron Football Player of the Week.
Yeah, you had to be special, and he was special because, like you said, he impacted the game in all three phases: offense, receiving touchdown, defense, 21 tackles, and special teams, a block punt. So that's a performance like that definitely gets you on this list for Gridiron Football Player of the Week. Now we're going to go. We're surprised it's only our Texas nomination this week, but we're going to our only Texas nomination for Gridiron Football Player of the Week in Week 8.
At number 12, we have DAngelo Paralis with 388 votes.
Yeah, DAngelo Paralis. He's actually been on this list a couple of times, playing for Nomin Force over there in Texas, a senior quarterback, a really talented signal caller, by the way, for Nomin Force, and kind of did his own Tylon Johnson impersonation right here, right from earlier. He was very efficient, 13 for 15, only had 2 incomplete passes, completed 86.7% of his passes for 265 yards. But he makes this list because he threw 7 touchdowns in a 53-13 win over North Garland. DAngelo Paralis, wow, talking about efficiency. Another guy, like you said, that was more likely to throw a touchdown pass than actually just a completion. I mean, he had 7 touchdowns, 6 completions that didn't go for touchdowns, and he had 2 incompletions. So Tylon Johnson like numbers, 7 touchdown passes, very efficient for DAngelo Paralis, and he was actually one of my votes this week for Gridiron Football Player of the Week. Very efficient performance and big time win as well for Nomin Force.
Well deserving of anyone's vote. You know, he only collected 388, which I think we can start to mention. We had 13 people this week collect 300 or more votes. Which is, I don't know what the record is on that front, but when you're talking about like just the overall presence and production this week in terms of votes and support and all of that, this is one of our best weeks this season, which is great. It's great to see that. It's just a really good sign in general. But when it comes to DAngelo in particular, this is a fantastic performance. This might be the best touchdown to incompletion ratio we've had the entire season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He threw 2 incompletions and he threw 7 touchdowns. That's ridiculous, of course. He only completed 6 more of them, but it didn't matter. You have an offense that's that explosive. Difficult to do that against air. Doesn't matter who you play. All of those things definitely hold true for DAngelo Paralis. Like you said, very similar performance to Tylon Johnson. He just had a couple more chances to throw the football, and he made those chances count with 1 more touchdown. So, yeah, congratulations to DAngelo. Didn't quite crack the top 10 here, but still really deserving and impressive at number 12.
Yeah, very impressive, having a great senior year as well. DAngelo has been on this list a couple of times, so big time performance for DAngelo for sure. We're going to go a little bit off the track here because we talked about some quarterbacks here. We talked about a two-way guy. We're going to go down in the trenches here for number 11.
Our first offensive line. No. This is still very impressive though. Number 11, we have Ethan Sands with 704 votes.
Yeah, Ethan Sands, we talk so much about Calvary Baptist and all their offensive weapons where it comes to Abram Wardell, their quarterback, James Simon, the Texas commit, Devin Harper, who's the LSU commit on the offensive line. They got a lot of offensive firepower, but it's guys like these that gives Calvary Baptist a great chance to win a state championship. Ethan Sands been an all-state defensive lineman. He's been a great player for the Cavaliers, and he had a very impressive performance because we talk about all those offensive flash pieces. Those are great, right? But it's a guy like this that got the job done. And the offense struggled a little bit. They only won 21-14 over Huntington. Well, it was a guy like Ethan Sands that stepped up. 16 total tackles as a defensive lineman is very impressive. I mean, for a linebacker, I can't imagine 16 total tackles. Here's the kicker. He had 7 TFLs. I think that's allowed us to consider him to be in this nomination this week. 5 of them were solo tackles as well. He was all over the field, pretty much unblockable for Huntington to try to contain a guy like that. Ethan Sands, it's hard for a defensive lineman to really have their impact in a football game to win the football game, but that was a winning effort. I think he made the difference here when you have 7 TFLs. And you're putting the other offense behind the chains all the time. So Ethan Sands, have yourself a performance. And if you're a lineman, we've had defensive lineman Diego Spears, who was a gridiron football All-American MVP in the bowl game on the defense side of the ball. He won gridiron football player of the week too. He had a great performance. So we're not counting out the big guys as well. If you have stand out with stat numbers like this, there's a reason why you made the list as well.
Yeah, it's not difficult for a defensive lineman to make an impact in a football game and to be the difference for a football game. I think there's a really important distinction to be made here, because that's not difficult. That's not something that like is impossible or rare or whatever. What it is difficult to do is to make an impact in the box score, which
right.
when we're not able to go to a lot of these games. We only, can go to so many games. So a lot of this is people submitting performances and us looking at the stats and us looking at, okay, opponent, score, how much of an impact did you make based on the stats that you have. It's really difficult for a defensive lineman to do it because of that.
Right.
And that is when a performance like this becomes so unbelievable, because there are plenty of D linemen that have an insane day, but maybe they don't even record a tackle, right?
Yeah.
But if they have, 8 pressures or something ridiculous, and, they're in the backfield all the time and forcing negative plays, even if they're not the person making it, that's impressive. So for a defensive lineman to record 7 tackles for loss, that shows you the level of dominance that he had to have had throughout that game. So that was impressive. That is unbelievable. Didn't quite crack the top 10, but absolutely deserving of being a gridiron football player of the week finalist. And you talked about how you can win an MVP award in a bowl game. You can be one of the most impactful players on a team, even if maybe we don't talk about you as much as we talk about all the flashy skill position players, especially on a team like Calvary Baptist.
Exactly. You talk about just being outside our top 10. We're going to go inside our top 10. And just let me know if we said his name quite before. We said his name quite often on the show each and every week. He has not won yet, and that's why he's still eligible to win this award each week. But again, we have this young man on our top 10. Alex, who is it?
Number 10 is Jonathan Dartz. Tell me if you've heard this one before. Jonathan Dartz with 718 votes.
Yeah, he has definitely been our most consistent performer this year that has not won our Gridiron Football Player of the Week. I know it has to be coming soon. I mean, he's just playing, stat line after stat line after video game number after video game numbers. It's been every single week. And these are the reason why Vermilion Catholic is right now looking at possibly a number 1 seed in the playoffs. They've been that good this year. Jonathan Dartz, what can you say about this young man? I mean, he's really been one-man show. I mean, you think about it. 25 carries, 252 yards rushing, and 5 touchdowns. That's just rushing the football. But he's the quarterback, so he can throw it a little bit when he needs to. 8 for 14, 79 yards, also threw a touchdown pass. So he was also 2 for 2, because when you're in 1A, they go for 2 points. That's a popular thing in 1A. So he was 2 for 2 in his 2-point conversion attempts. So add up all the yards, throwing, rushing, 331 total yards, 6 total touchdowns, which is crazy to say. An average day in the office for Jonathan Dartz, accounted for 40 of the 50 points in a 50-21 win over Opelousas Catholic. Yeah, average performance for Jonathan Dartz, right?
And I've watched this Opelousas Catholic team before. Pretty good football team in 1A.
Yeah.
And didn't even just dispatched him. Nothing. Like it was just some little kid that you're like, holding up like that, like, stopping them from running into you.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Opelousas Catholic's really good at 1A team.
Yeah.
50-21. What do you mean 50-21?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
250 yards and 5 touchdowns. Jonathan Dartz has kind of a pedestrian day for him.
which
this
is
season.
crazy to say.
which is insane because it was still like an automatic lock for Player of the Week when you drop 300 yards and 6 touchdowns total.
He spoiled us so much.
He's definitely one of these people that has absolutely spoiled us. He doesn't have the random spike week. Every week is a spike week where he drops 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 300 yards, whatever. I think the conversation around Gatorade Football Player of the Year, Gridiron Football Player of the Year, even though he hasn't won yet. He's, if we're going to start including people that haven't won but are consistent performers that are finalists week in, week out, at this point, it's hard to imagine we go to a name before him to be the first name on that list. So this is just another weekly performance for Jonathan Dartz that, again, it actually feels kind of pedestrian for him at this point, but that doesn't make it any less impressive as a whole.
Yeah, you just got to appreciate that, because at 1A, you're playing all the time. He has the football in his hands every play. So to appreciate him going out and, playing his heart out every single week, a lot of times carrying the team on his back a lot of times. That's saying a lot about this young man. And talk about how good this Vermilion Catholic team is. You talked about being down a really good Opelousas Catholic team. They beat down a really good Riverside team that you just saw beat down St. Martin's. So that shows you how good that Vermilion Catholic team is. And they're going to be something to watch. I know Jonathan Dartz and Vermilion Catholic, they lost in the state championship 2 years ago. They lost in the semis last year. So I know they're motivated for him to end his great career with a state championship this year. Let's hopefully see what the Screaming Eagles can do that. We go to another quarterback, another dual threat quarterback who made this list at number 9.
At number 9, we have Owen Smith with 732 votes, plus mine for 733.
And the crazy thing is, they lost by over 20 points in this game, which is insane. Natchez Central up there in Natchez, Louisiana. Brad Laird, who was a former coach at Northwestern State, he's taken over at Natchez Central. He's done a good job over there with the Chiefs. And quarterback Owen Smith, he's only a junior. He's still got another year after this. So Chiefs fans got to be really excited having him back for another year. Owen Smith, talk about a quarterback shootout. He went against none other than the state's leading passer, probably the number one offense in his entire state, the Airline Vikings, led by Ben Taylor. And they came up short because when you try to go into a shootout with Airline, that's not going to work out for you. They lost 76-52. That just comes to show you how good Airline's offense is. But Owen Smith did a really good job of trying to match tit for tat with Ben Taylor, who a lot of people are saying is the best quarterback in the state. So you look at the numbers, Owen did a pretty good job. That should win you a football game 99 times out of 100. He completed 28 of 41 passes for 401 yards, 5 touchdowns, ran for 147 more yards, and another touchdown. That's 548 total yards and 6 total touchdowns and a 76-52 loss to Airline. The stat line was great, but you had to play a juggernaut offense in Airline and trying to go Big 12 basketball and grass against them isn't going to work out. We were talking about it. It was like Jaden Daniels against Ole Miss. Like his stat line, throwing for 400 yards, running for over 100 yards, 6 touchdowns, still wasn't enough. But great performance, individual performance from Owen Smith. And I know it's tough trying to go up against that Airline offense, but still very impressive individual performance that has to be discussed about.
What did the Airline stats look like?
Knowing Ben Taylor, probably about.
What did Ben Taylor's stats look like?
600 yards, 7 touchdowns, probably. That's how good that offense is too. This was
some Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, and the Big 12 style nonsense.
Yeah,
you hit the nail on the head there. With we actually when we saw the stat line, it reminded us of Jaden Daniels' performance against Ole Miss last season. For LSU fans out there, and it's shockingly similar statistically, really, really similar. Has 400 passing yards, close to 100 rushing yards. The total touchdown number was similar. That's what this is. How do you have a performance like that and lose by 20 points? Oh, you're playing the best quarterback in Louisiana. Okay, that fair enough. But it's still 400 passing yards, 100 rushing yards, almost 200. Yeah, that's ridiculous. 6 total touchdowns. There's not that much to say about it. It's a Jonathan Dartz stat line, actually, in a lot of ways.
It is.
Although I think a John stat line would be reversing the rushing and passing yards.
Yep.
Dartz would rush for 400 yards, pass for 150.
100 yards.
But this was ridiculous. Of course, you run out of like positive adjectives to use for a stat line like this. It got my vote for a reason. It was unbelievable, and Airline is one of the best. It's a really great team in the state of Louisiana. So putting up 52 points against them, even though it turned into a shootout and they still lost by 3 scores, it's still a really impressive overall performance from Owen Smith and deserving of being here at number 9 in the Player of the Week voting.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Taylor, 400 yards passing. He had a couple of touchdown passes in this football game, and he's actually the leading passer in Louisiana high school public schools history. So
wow,
so that's that type of offense they're playing against. So hard to go tit for tat with that.
Owen Smith gave it the best he could.
He really did. He really did. He gave his team a really good chance to win that football game. We go to at number 8, and this is a stat line we're going to talk about that we haven't really talked as much about this year. But Alex, let's go to our number 8 guy.
At number 8, we have Jace Lanier with 821 votes.
Yeah, it starts off with a good name. Of course, we have to start off with a Jace. So that's how good. Automatically, if your name is Jace, you get nominated for Player of the Week. You're on the list because hey, that's as good as it gets. So 821 votes for Jace Lanier. But this is a interesting stat line. So we have fan votes too. So we have fan votes and coaches votes. So when we got this fan vote nomination, Jace had 210 return yardage, okay? And he had 3 touchdowns, all of them coming off returns. He had 2 of them punt return for touchdowns, and he had a kickoff return for a touchdown. We didn't get any other stat line. We got just that. But we're like, that's hard to do, is return one of those for touchdowns, whether it's a punt return or a kick return for a touchdown. I still think punt return is the hardest position to play in football when you're trying to catch a football with 11 guys running right after you. So it's still the hardest position in football, in my opinion. And have 2 punt return for touchdowns and a kickoff return for a touchdown. Just grab the oxygen tank for Jace Lanier because he ran a whole lot. I can tell you that. But man, very impressive performance. 3 special teams touchdowns. That's insane. Great performance, Jace, and way to represent the Jaces. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we actually haven't had a single submission the entire season. Not just finalist. Not a single nominee the entire season whose name is Alex. Come on, guys.
More common name. There's not a lot of Jaces walking around.
What are we doing here? We're letting down all Alexes in humanity. Come on, guys. Okay, on a serious note, I guess yes, all touchdowns are created equal. Every touchdown counts the same number of points, but come on, some are more fun than others.
Oh yeah.
In terms of like the fun to watch scale, this is like a 6 touchdown performance. I know he only quote unquote scored 3. But come on now. I don't know if the deal is he was playing defense, like he's like a corner or something, and the defensive stat line was whatever, but he probably played well. I don't care. That's ridiculous. This is also a really good example of one of those stat lines where it's same thing with someone who has 3 picks in a game or 2 picks. Stop throwing it to him. Just stop kicking it at him. Stop kicking it in a place where he can catch the ball. After the first one, you'd think they'd go, maybe we shouldn't do that. But whatever they tried, it didn't work. And Jace, as of course, Mr. Lejeune here is very happy to hear, is performing very, very well, was completely unstoppable in the return game. Looked like the Detroit Lions this last week.
It did.
Yeah, what an unbelievable performance. I don't know what he did on offense or defense. I assume he was playing.
Yeah.
I assume he did something, but I guess it just didn't matter, and it still was very much a finalist for this week.
Yeah, I would imagine after maybe the first touchdown, I think it's a good idea that we don't kick it to him, right? You think it'd be a good idea, hey, let's not that guy just returned it on us. Maybe the second time, hey, after the second one, I want to try kicking it to him again, but maybe squib it, kick it out of bounds, yeah, but I guess they didn't get the memo. That's for sure. But Jace Lanier, a great performance, a unique one. We're talking about the return touchdowns as well. We go to our number 7 guy, Alex, and this is when the votes. We've had some really good balance of voting. Really from about 13 to about 8. Was pretty close all the way around. Number 7, we're starting to get into the 4 digits, so over the thousands here. So tell us who's at number 7, Alex.
Yeah, 11 to 8, really close, and then now we're getting into a couple more people that are kind of in their own tier. At number 7, we have Bryce Wilkerson with 1,179 votes.
Yeah, Bryce definitely deserved to be in the running for, number 1 even, because Bryce's numbers for Thomas Jefferson were very impressive for a running back. We talk about a lot of those running back stats that you said earlier on the show. Usually you have maybe it's 12 carries for 230 yards and 5 touchdowns, and you also have kind of those bell cow type of numbers too. This was kind of like a mix of both, right? When you look at it, because Bryce Wilkerson had 23 carries for 320 yards and 6 touchdowns. They won the game 39-21 over Patrick Taylor. 320 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns. If he threw that much, 320 and 6 touchdowns, you'll probably be on the list. Let alone run for that much yardage is insane. So Bryce Wilkerson, what individual performance when 6 for 23. That's not too bad considering the number of carries he had. Have 6 touchdowns there. So 320 yards, amazing performance for Bryce Wilkerson. He was another guy that deserved a lot of votes as well. Being at number 7, pretty good spot for him as well. First guy on our list that has over 1,000 votes on this list. So yeah, it shows you what kind of Jace. You got 6 other guys ahead of him than that, and it's yeah, we do, and they're really good performances as well. But Alex, break this one down. Bryce's 6 touchdown performance was actually one player of the week last week. Reed Chauvin had 6 touchdowns last week, so really good performance.
Talk about an oxygen tank performance. 23. He ran for 300 yards. He ran for a quarter of a mile almost. What are you talking about? He doesn't need. He needs an oxygen tank. He needs an ice bath. He needs everything.
Yep.
This was. Are we sure we didn't accidentally copy paste one of Ashton Gentee's stat lines in?
Yeah. It wasn't Ashton Gentee from Boise State. Yeah, it wasn't even Boise State. Yep.
Okay. Just making sure.
We made sure.
But yeah, unbelievable. We're getting to the point when it comes to running back stat lines that the level of performance needed to actually make the list is getting really high. Yeah. Because every week there are 3 or 4 people that are I rushed for 28 times for 202 yards at 3 touchdowns, and we're
yeah, that's not enough.
Actually, no. Sorry.
Yeah.
So unless you're putting up some ridiculous level of efficiency, or you're putting up a performance like this where you're like a bell cow and you have some stupid volume number, and you got to have the touchdowns, it's difficult. So it tells you how impressive it is for Bryce to do this, still make it in as a running back when the threshold is so high. Because the talent in the running back position this year, not just the senior class, but in general in the state of Louisiana, is incredible. And Bryce is another one of these running backs that's putting together a performance that is worthy of being talked about. So, again, congratulations to Bryce Wilkerson for an incredible day at the office, over 300 yards rushing, and 6 touchdowns. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Unbelievable. That is for sure for Bryce Wilkerson. Now we go into our number 6 guy, and this is actually a guy you saw his performance in person. So we're going to go to our number 6 player this week.
At number 6, we have Carson Sanders with 1,201 votes.
What a season the Ash Trojans are having right now. And Carson Sanders has been a big part of that. And Ash fans are very excited because Carson Sanders is only a sophomore. He's still got 2 more years left. And he's having a special season for the Trojans. Look at the teams they've defeated already: West Monroe and now Ruston. And Alex was there. He's gonna get a chance to talk about it. He saw it in person. But Ruston, we're talking about being the best team in the state. They're defending state champions, and all Carson did was lead his team to a really a shootout. And they got a good quarterback on the other side, and Joshua Brantley too, who's committed to play at Tulane. And Carson Sellers was not intimidated. As a sophomore on the big stage, he showed out. He completed 12 of 17 for 241 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 40-36 win over Ruston. He hit, I believe, Terrence Townsend, the tight end, for the game-winning touchdown, and it was back and forth for a sophomore to play in this environment. It was at home, but it was a huge stage with a lot of the state watching. And Carson Sellers stood out for his team, had a great efficient performance, 4 touchdowns. He set 12 for 17, 241, no picks. I mean, really great performance for Carson Sellers, and allowed his team to win one of the biggest games in the state this year, and really could set up a potential district championship match next week against the Neville Tigers. So, Alex, you were there. You drove up there to Alexandria to see Ruston.
Yeah.
A lot of college prospects on the football field too. Very impressive to watch. Alex, you were there. Talk about his performance and being there in person.
Yeah, this was like the 2005 Rose Bowl of like high school games, sort of what it felt like, where like you're gonna come, and I said this on Sunday or whenever Ball in the Boot got uploaded.
Yeah,
I said this on that show where in 3 years or so, college football fans are gonna come back to this game and go, oh wait, that's a Tulane commit, that's an LSU. I know that guy at LSU. I know that guy at Tulane. That guy's playing also at LSU. That guy's playing in the FCS. That guy's playing in D1. That guy's playing at South Alabama. Stuff like that.
Right.
And it was one of those games. In a game, look, Carson didn't have the most impressive on-field performance I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I saw Dedrick Lesty.
Yeah, right. Who won our Player of the Week that week?
Also, who won Player of the Week? Carson finished 6th. Great performance. But in the stat line is fairly pedestrian. I mean, great game, obviously.
Yeah.
In terms of like being a finalist for Player of the Week, we're talking about. It's the game. It's the team he's playing. It's everything around the performance that makes it deserving of being on here. The lack of mistakes, I think, speaks in a game. It's very important in a game where Ruston has a cornerback that is committed to LSU.
Yep.
Ruston has one of the best secondaries in the state. Ruston has one of the best defenses in the state. Ruston's defensive line was a problem. JT Lindsay had a good day, but it was a problem.
Yeah.
And in the moment, fighting for the district, all of the poise in the world, throwing 4 touchdowns, no picks, a reasonable completion percentage, good yards production, and the 4 touchdowns, really, really impressive in a big spot, a huge spot in the biggest game of the week. That's what this is all about. He's not the biggest prospect on the field, not even the biggest prospect on the field in his year. This is the same game that had Maude Hudson in it.
Yeah,
but all of those big names, he was the guy.
Yep.
He was the guy that led the team, that won the game to win the game. And that speaks volumes in what is hyping up to be one of the best clashes all season, regular or post.
Yeah.
Next week when Ash plays Neville. That's going to be exciting. We're going to have to cover it. it might be the game of the year in the regular season until we get to the state championship, where we're going to see, Acadiana versus Catholic or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
I don't know.
right.
Until we get there, this is the game. This will be the game. And if Ash wins, we love JT Lindsay. We love those wide receivers, Jimmy Duncan, all of them.
Yep.
Carson Sanders is going to be the reason they win or lose that game.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be based off of quarterback play. That's why he's here. That's why he's deserving. It's the game. It's the performance. It's the opponent. It's all of that. An unbelievable day given all of that.
Yeah, it's hard to go in that environment. I mean, in any type of big environment, right, with a big game on the line, it's hard for a senior to manage that, let alone a sophomore, to really manage that environment and that big time game atmosphere with a lot on the line. And he handled it flawlessly for his team. That's a big reason why he's on our list at number 6. We go to our number 5. Speaking of playing for another undefeated team, we're going to go to our top 5, Alex.
Couldn't be talking about two more different. Well, actually, they're sort of similar, but
yeah.
Well, in their own ways, they're sort of similar. But we'll talk about it. At number 5, we have Lachlan Clavier with 2,355 votes.
Yeah, Ash is undefeated. They're one of 18 undefeated teams still left in the state. And Haynes Academy is another one. Probably the most shocking school when we talk about, and the Carr's on that list, Lutcher's on that list, Walsall Christian,
Neville.
Going down the list. And, Haynes Academy is on that list. That's the one, that's interesting. But Lachlan Clavier is a big reason why Haynes Academy is having a special season they are having. Coach Ben Powell's done an excellent job with that team this year. And, Haynes Academy, undefeated. They're number 3 in the power rankings right now, I believe. Have a chance to have a bye in the first round. And Lachlan is one of those reasons why. And really, their undefeated season was in jeopardy last week. But it was Lachlan that had a school record rushing. Talk about yardage and running for a lot of yards and needing the oxygen tank here, Alex. Lachlan had 426 yards rushing, which is a school record on 31 carries. Also scored 4 touchdowns, and they won the game 46-41 over Young Audience's school. So 4 touchdowns, 400 yards. You win the game by 5. Lachlan was the difference maker here. What can you ask for? A special season right now for the Yellow Jackets, for Haynes Academy. What can you say about the year they're having, and Ben Powell being the coach of the year? They're having a magical run, a magical season. And Lachlan, put the cherry on top, a school record in rushing in one game. And they needed it because they won by 5. So top 5 performance for Lachlan makes his debut on this list. And great performance for Haynes Academy. What a season they're having.
I don't know how you couldn't be rooting for them.
Yeah, right.
We're going to start covering playoff games in a couple of weeks, of course, when they begin. It'll be really exciting. Maybe even in they get a cupcake or something, and maybe we have to see what that looks like, because Haynes Academy winning a cupcake game. I said that Ash being undefeated is sort of similar in its own way, but I think that's a little bit unfair to both teams, because Ash is a really good team. They've been a really good team.
They went to state just a couple years ago, lost Acadiana on the last play, came down to 1 play. So.
Yeah, but they haven't, it feels like the story around Ash before beating West Monroe and Ruston. Now they're going to get a shot at Neville. They're going to be taken seriously in the playoff run this year. It feels like they couldn't beat the big team. They couldn't be undefeated. They were just a step below that, and now they are there, right? That's what Ash is. That's not what the story is with Haynes. Haynes is 0-10 every season. Haynes is not a good football team. Haynes is an academic school.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. They're the Vanderbilt of Louisiana high school football. And for that team to be undefeated, for that team to have someone breaking school records like Lachlan Clavier, that's special. This is a team of destiny. This is a magical run. All of those things. This is going to be a really exciting story to see how long they can take this. Can they finish the season undefeated, winning football games regularly, turning a program around potentially in the span of 1 year? That's a special story. It's maybe one of the most fun stories in the state of Louisiana high school football this year. So it's honestly great to be able to just talk about a chapter in that story.
Yeah.
Even though we haven't really talked about them much this year because they're Haynes Academy. But
a lot of people's attention now. I can tell you that.
Now, do I have everybody's attention now?
Yeah.
You do, Haynes Academy. You really, really do. Congratulations, Lachlan. Congratulations to everybody around there, around that school, around that community. You guys deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Both Ash and Haynes Academy having magical undefeated seasons for two different reasons, like you just said. And we're going to go to number 4. We actually talked about a mass and prep player earlier on this list in the quarterback in Tylon Johnson. We're actually going to go to his teammate here at number 4.
At number 4, we have Javin Holmes with 3,003 votes.
Yeah, against Collegiate. I mean, poor Collegiate. I mean, I have to say here. I mean, not only you had to deal with 6 touchdowns from Tylon Johnson on 7 completions on the offensive side of the football, you had to deal with Javin Holmes, a 2026 safety on the defensive side of the football. And when you make this list on defense, that's saying something. Just on defense and as a safety, and Javin Holmes definitely deserves to be on this list. Over 3,000 votes, so good support there over there in Madison Prep. Like I said, big game tonight against U High. I'm sure they're kind of like watching the game, U High game, and watch to see where their guys are at right now. So in the stands as we're talking about right now. But Javin Holmes had 6 tackles, 3 interceptions too. He had 3 interceptions, including 1 return for a touchdown for a pick 6 and 2 TFLs adding on to that. They won the game in a landslide, 76-0. I know Javin Holmes' dad's been a big fan of the show, a ball in the boot, and it's been he's actually talked to Daryl a little bit when he's refereeing games and stuff, and says like, "Hey, I love the show. I love y'all watching the show and Ball in the Boot. I catch it every week, so it's good to see Javin on the list." And great performance by Javin. 3 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown. That's pretty impressive on that defense side of the football. So, I mean, Collegiate had a tough time dealing with Tylon Johnson. They had a tough time dealing with Javin Holmes on defense. So it was like, what gives, you know?
Hey, at least Collegiate threw a touchdown. I'm sorry.
Oh man, Alex.
I'm terrible. I'm about to make it worse. So there was a stat in this game combining the 2 Player of the Week performances. Tylon Johnson had as many incompletions as Javin Holmes had interceptions.
Yeah. That's the type of game it was.
That's rough.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, did they start feeling bad at any point in time? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's rough. But yeah, that's not to take anything away from Javin and his performance.
Yeah.
3 interceptions is unbelievable, of course. We've had games like that before. That's what, again, safety is one of those positions where it's really tough. It's just really tough to get on here. It's usually what it takes. But he was able to do it, and especially returning 1 for a touchdown. That's really impressive, of course. So yeah, Javin Holmes, great performance. Not a whole lot like fun to talk about here.
Took care of business. 76-0.
Took care of business, and partially because like it's 3 picks and a pick 6. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And, congratulations. I mean, that's not like. I apologize. That's not to take anything away from it. It's a great performance. It's an awesome
3 interceptions in 1 game from a safety is pretty good.
It's really, really impressive. Really, really impressive. So yeah, congratulations to Javin and the entire Madison Prep team. As of course, they have some business to take care of tonight. We'll see if they can do it. If they can knock off U High. Huge game. Best of luck to them, of course.
Yep, and as we mentioned, you can follow it along as we're doing the show on X. Daryl Felker is going to be at the game tonight, so he's going to be covering. So he's going to give you some live updates. Big game, district championship on the line between the Chargers and the Cubs. So we're going to go into our top 3, and here we're going to the 10,000s, right? That shows you how many votes you're getting right now. And Alex, we're going to go just – we're waiting for that first. This year we had so many guys from Texas win. Last year, winner player of the week. Obviously, a player from Texas won our player of the year last year. but we're looking for that first out of state team this year. It's been dominated by Louisiana this year, but our only Mississippi guy just misses out at number 3. Alex, who tells us who is it?
At number 3, we have Kellen Hall with 11,043 votes.
Yeah, Kellen
Big
Hall.
jump.
Yeah. Yep. So Kellen Hall, man, is very special. I mean, he's only a sophomore, just like we talked about earlier from Carson Sellers, but he is going to be a good one. I can tell you that. Now, this is Oak Grove in Mississippi. This ain't the Oak Grove in North Louisiana. But Kellen Hall was phenomenal. I mean, 17 for 23, 307 yards, 5 touchdowns. They be a pretty decent Northwest ranking football team up there in Mississippi, 59-28. Kellen Hall, only a sophomore. I mean, talk about that. Talk about this, Alex. I mean, I have a couple sophomore quarterbacks on this list. So the future at the quarterback position is really bright when we're talking about it. But 6 incompletions, had 5 touchdown passes. Talk about efficiency. That was a very efficient performance for Kellen Hall and Oak Grove, the Warriors, a big time program up there in Mississippi, getting a big time win over Northwest Rankin. It's because of their very talented sophomore quarterback.
Yeah, we talk about the running back class this year, the 2025 running back class being really special, right? Harlem Berry, JT Lindsay, Jasper Parker, all of the big time commits. And then that leaves this like second tier of guys that are also really, really good that people don't quite talk about as much. Dedrick Lassie, for example. Well, it feels like we might get a very similar situation with the sophomore quarterback class, right? Bob Houston, Elijah Haven, Kavian Bryant, stuff like that. And then that's going to give us the second tier of guys that are really, really productive, really, really good, that might not get as much media coverage, might not get as much exposure, and that's going to be a disservice to them because they deserve it. Carson Sanders is one of those guys. Kellen Hall is one of those guys. He's in Alabama, but the idea is still similar. That he's Mississippi, sorry, he's in Mississippi, but the idea is still similar. They're really good. This is a great performance for someone who's 15, 14.
Yeah, and Kellen Hall just recently got offered by Tulane. So there's some traction going on for Kellen Hall as well already when you get an offer like that.
So that's a guy that we might see a lot over the next couple of years. Even though he's not in Louisiana, we still might talk about him a lot on a show like this. So this, I believe, is the first time we've said his name here.
I believe so. I think this is first appearance on the list this year. But I feel like we've had somebody from Oak Grove this year on the list.
Maybe. Might be his first time. Will not be his last.
Yeah.
When you're a sophomore and you're doing this already, the sky's the limit in many ways. So congratulations to Kellen. Didn't quite make it into this top tier this week because it was a crazy week, which we'll talk about very soon. Didn't quite make it, but another great performance, both in terms of support and in terms of what was actually on the field, going 17 for 23, 300 yards, unbelievable. We'll talk about him a lot more in the future. Congratulations to Kellen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very deserving performance for sure for Kellen. Like I said, I mean, keep an eye on this kid. He's only a sophomore. He's going to be one of the top quarterbacks, I would assume, in the country when we talk about a couple of years. Already got an offer from Tulane, so he's going to get more traction. When you get that first big offer like that, it's going to be bigger and bigger. It's kind of what happened with Kavian Bryant last year. When he got his first big one, more and more came in. So there's going to be a good chance that also happens to Kellen. And Alex, once again, one of our closest finishes we've ever had. It's crazy to think that 11,000 votes put you 10,000 behind, but that's how insane the voting was between number 1 and number 2. Because I know both these two communities know process of elimination and know their names being called. They know the other one won. So before we go into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's donated because donations count for votes. Like if you donate $10, it's going to be $1 for every. 10 votes for every dollar you donate. So $10 will be 100 votes and so forth. And want to thank everybody that's donated, and it's for a good cause. Like a lot of these players we talk about for Gridiron Football Player of the Week, they're actually going to be playing in the Gridiron Football All-American Bowl game. So that all the money that is being donated is going towards the Gridiron Football All-American Bowl game. So your donation is not only supporting your player, but it's also supporting our bowl game, which is giving seniors another chance to play that final high school game in front of college coaches. So we'll have college coaches in the stadium for this football game as well. So it's going to be a big one down there in late December. And we just to let y'all know, we've gotten $1,600 of donations. So round of applause, everybody. Thank you so much for your donations. We really appreciate it. $1,600. We really appreciate everybody that's donated, all the communities, because we've had donations from 4 or 5 different schools. So we really appreciate it. We want to thank you all so much for your donation and votes as well. So Alex, let's go to our number two on this list for this week.
We won't make you wait any longer. Number 2 is Jacob Crane with 21,449 votes.
Jacob Crane, I feel sorry for you, man, because over at Franklinton, and wanted to see another team that's having a magical season this year. But Jacob probably would have won pretty much almost any other week if it wasn't. It just happened to be in the wrong week, right? So. Yeah. That's just the thing. It's like in bowling, right? You got to beat the guy that's, that you're playing against this week in the other lane, not so much beating everybody else out there. And so forth, it was like the wrong place, the wrong time this week for Jacob Crane to have a great performance. 21,449 votes. I can only count how many times that would have won him Player of the Week this year. I mean, that would have won him a bunch of Player of the Weeks, including last week as well. But we're going to talk about who won this week as well later on. But Jacob Crane, he's leading this Franklinton football team. What a magical season Coach Salter Formaggio, this Franklinton Demons football team, is having. They're on quite a run right now. And they're number 1 in the power rankings, too. So they're having a very special season. Jacob Crane's a big reason for it. So we look at the numbers. Jacob Crane, talk about dual threat performance. It's kind of similar to what we talked about the kick off this list and Jacob Goucher. Jacob Crane, who will have another year left, so Demons fans going to be really excited. He's only a junior. He completed 9 for 14 for 261 yards, 3 touchdowns, also had 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. They account for 5 total touchdowns and a 49-40 win over Pearl River. And it was a shootout. I mean, this is a Pearl River team that you actually saw. We saw against Episcopal earlier this year, and they got a really good running back. They got a good offense.
Yeah, talk about good running backs.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of good running backs this year. And Jacob Crane, they needed all 5 of those touchdowns because it was a little bit of a shootout, a little bit of a scare for Franklinton, but they're able to get it done. And Franklinton, that's what they've done this year. They found ways to get it done against really good teams, and they did so against Pearl River. And Jacob Crane was the one that really drove the ship here. 5 touchdowns and scored 49 points. Made a big difference. They needed to win that football game, and they don't win that football game if it wasn't for Jacob Crane.
To put into perspective how impressive the voting performance was from both Jacob and our number 1 entrant, Kellen Hall, number 3, had 11,000 votes. That's really impressive. He was about as close to the number 11 place on this list as he was to Jacob in terms of the distance between the number of votes.
Yeah.
And he's closer to number 8 than he was to Jacob. That gives you the perspective of just how insane putting up 21,000 votes is.
Yeah.
Jacobs. So this wins every single week except for this week and the Dedrick Lassie week where he somehow put up almost 50,000 votes.
Yeah.
So of the 8 weeks, he would have won 6 of them. It's the 3rd highest performance the entire season. Unfortunately, he ran into the 2nd highest voting performance
this week.
That's to say nothing about the actual game that Jacob had, which, you're talking about opponent. You're talking about this being a really big game, a big win in a close game that they need. On top of, 300 yards, 5 touchdowns. It's 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. What do you want from us, man? He only threw 14 passes.
Yeah.
and he's doing that. 5 total touchdowns, 3 passing, 2 rushing. In a game where they needed all of it. They needed him to do that because the other offense was producing too. That's what a player of the week looks like. And just because he happened to come up this short doesn't mean he wouldn't have been deserving of Player of the Week if it happened in any other week. So congratulations, Jacob. Great performance, great week. Hopefully you can come back another week and be able to win it, because it really is a shame that he wasn't able to win this week. Absolutely.
Yeah, but he's got another chance. And like I said, if you win Player of the Week, you cannot be nominated again. So once you win, you cannot be nominated. So since he came up just short, Jacob will have another opportunities down the line to make this list, continue to make this list, and be nominated for Player of the Week. But round of applause, though, for Franklinton, the Franklinton community, definitely, because like Alex said, this was the third highest total of votes this year. It just happened to come at the wrong time because they lost the second highest number of votes this year. And we're going to talk about that. And if there was a performance that definitely deserved it with the votes, this one's pretty strong. And we're going to talk about Alex. Alex, who was our Gridiron Football, after the drum roll, right? Week 8, Gridiron Football Player of the Week. Who is it, Alex?
Tyron Singleton with 22,269 votes.
Yeah, less than 1,000 votes was the margin of victory here for Tyron Singleton and Delta Charter. So the Delta Charter storm pulling quite a voting storm here for Tyron Singleton. Wow, what a performance for Tyron. And we're going to talk about, I mean, this is one of our best combinations of voting and just winning performances. Like Dedrick Lashley was kind of like that too. That's how good Tyron's performance was. Tyron's actually brother Javari, he actually played in a Gridiron Football All-American Bowl game last year. So this is his younger brother, Tyron. And Tyron, wow, I mean, talking about some points, we talked about Pop Houston earlier this year when it was like when he threw for like 10 touchdowns and lost. Well, this is the opposite side of it. Well, this is our highest scoring football game of the season, okay, when we're talking about it. And that was 84. Don't adjust your screens or anything, or don't adjust your hearing aids or anything like that, adjusting your ears, because this is true. 84 to 82. Okay, 80. This is not a basketball game we're talking about. It's a football game. 84 to 82. Okay, 4 overtimes, right? 4 overtimes. And unbelievable. I mean, there's so many words to describe this, Alex. I mean, Tyron Singleton had 38 carries, 369 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns rushing, and also had 2 2-point conversions in the game as well. And guess what? You needed all of those points because you scored 84 of them and only won by 2 in 4 overtimes. 84-82. Often you can watch a high school basketball game in Louisiana and have that much points in the game. Unbelievable. 84-82. And yeah, I mean, Tyron Singleton was the difference. I mean, 369 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions. That's saying a lot. That's like, what, 34 points?
5 times 6 is, 34 points.
Yeah, 34 points. Yeah, I mean, every point's going to matter, right? When you got a game like this. So, unbelievable. Tyron Singleton, 34 points accounted for, 6 touchdowns, or 5 touchdowns, 369 yards, and 22,269 votes. Take a bow, Delta Charter. Take a bow, Delta Charter. Wow. What a game for Blake Wheeler's squad. 4 overtimes and a really good General Trask team. Man, Alex, a lot to break down here for a Player of the Week.
So I'm not well versed in Louisiana high school basketball. I don't know how good Delta Charter's basketball team is.
Mm-hmm.
There are basketball teams in the state of Louisiana that will not score 84 points in a game this season.
Yep.
I know because I went to one of them. There are bad high school basketball teams that will not get into the 80s all year. It will not happen. This is ridiculous. I talked about St. Ed's and Opelousas Catholic a couple of weeks ago being the game of the year. This might be the game of the year.
Yeah.
Four overtimes. 84 points. And the two, obviously 300 yards, 5 touchdowns. We talk about kind of barrier to entry. Great performance, of course. Actually, I think the 2-point conversions might tell a lot more of the story because I think we can assume those were the 2 overtime 2-point conversions. Probably.
Yeah.
Because
I probably made the difference. I probably was the game-winning play. I mean, we weren't there to see it, but
it might not have been walk-off, but it was the difference in the game. We can assume.
Yeah.
Just by looking at the stat line, 4 overtimes, 3rd and 4th overtime, you have to start going for 2. It's probably the difference. That's it. It tells you. It also tells you a lot about. I mean, obviously, not that it takes a rocket scientist to go, oh, the guy that rushed for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Oh, the game's on the line. It's a 2-point conversion. Yeah, let's put the ball in his hands. But it tells you a lot about the player that's what happened. That they did put the ball in his hands, and he delivered. And so we talked about Captain Shreve. General Trav having a very Captain Shreve-like performance here. Being the biggest fuel for a Player of the Week award this year, and coming up just short while scoring 82 points. I wonder what the stat lines looks like for them. But yeah, Delta Charter, Tyron Singleton. Actually, the stat line is almost less impressive than it felt like it could have been, given the numbers, right? Like 80. Okay, so 84 points. So they scored 10 touchdowns. 11 touchdowns.
He scored about half of it.
He scored half of them, which is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I mean, it's a full game for full game and
more. Full game and more.
Yeah.
But we're talking about it. This is tongue in cheek, and we're also talking about relative to the game, where I mean I assume they just didn't tackle. Either team did, or something.
A lot of defense going on that game, I can assume.
Yeah, unbelievable. So this was a great performance, super deserving. All of the words that we say all the time, but this is between the voting and the actual performance, it stands out. It really does stand out. Because I think another thing in a game like this, real quick before we kind of finish, is I talked about this with Dedrick, too, because, of course, in Dedrick's game where Harlan Berry dropped, 5 touchdowns himself, every time he gets to the bench and he's like, well, they're about to score again, so I got to be ready to go out there and do my thing again. Every single time Delta Charter scored, General Trav scored. Boom, 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 boom. So Tyron Singleton is coming off the field. Every single time he rushes for 50 yards and a touchdown, 30 yards and a touchdown, 60 yards and a touchdown, 70 yards, someone else gets a touchdown, whatever it was. He accounts for half his team's performance in an 84-point game alone. And he's sitting there with the rest of his offense. He's like, sorry, boys, we got to go do it again. There's an aspect of that that's really impressive. And in what might be the Louisiana high school football game of the year, performance that's very deserving. It's a performance that turns heads. It's a game that turns heads, and he's one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. Congratulations, Tyron Singleton. Gridiron Football Player of the Week for Week 8. Super duper deserving. Congratulations to him and all of Delta Charter for a huge win. And this just kind of is among the things that they will talk about with this game, winning an award like this. Congratulations, Tyron. Congratulations, Delta Charter.
Absolutely. Really congratulations, I have to say. Also, I have to give a shout out to Franklinton, too, for being involved with the voting as much as they were. I think they had a whole school voting during class. So, really, both these two communities really deserve a lot of praise and shout-outs. They've been two big fans of ours for Gridiron Football, so we really appreciate the support from Franklinton and from Delta Charter as well. Round of applause for really both of y'all for what y'all been able to do for the voting this week, and we really appreciate really both of y'all. And we're looking forward to really moving forward and seeing what these guys do the rest of the season. Now,
Jacob, what are you doing? Well, why are you on your phone? Oh, I'm voting for myself on Player of the Week. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, right? But yeah, I'm going to talk about it. I mean, Tyron Singleton. I'm sure Delta Charter fans, they did that much voting, that much donating. They're going like, okay, what did he win? What does our guy win? Well, him and Coach Blake Wheeler will be doing an interview with me as well, talking about their performance a little bit more. They'll deep dive into what was a crazy 4 overtime win. They'll talk about it, and they'll be on the show, the Player of the Week show interview tomorrow. Also, this will get mailed out to them. We're tracking it right now. We ordered new batches for this year. This was last year's Letterman jacket patch, which Tyron will win. He will actually get this in the mail sometime very soon. Where we actually ordered a new batch. They're in Texas right now, so we should be able to get them maybe towards maybe the end of this week, and not the end of this week. Probably early next week, we'll probably get these Letterman jacket patches in, and we're going to start delivering them as well once these get in. So he's going to win a Letterman jacket patch. He'll get a chance to wear this on his Letterman jacket patch, Letterman jacket. And then winning Gridiron Football Player of the Week we'll put him in contention for Gridiron Football Player of the Year, which also will have a chance to win a Letterman jacket patch like this one, but it's a gold one for a Gridiron Football Player of the Year. But that's what he'll win. So congratulations, Tyron. He is our Gridiron Football Player of the Week. So huge shout out to Delta Charter, and what a week it was, winning a dramatic game like that. Tyron had a performance like that. It was a pretty good week to be part of the Delta Charter Storm. So congratulations to them. And then Alex, we're going to week 9. We're running out of chances for a lot of guys to win Gridiron Football Player of the Week. Now we'll continue this all through the playoffs. So we're not stopping anytime soon. So as soon as the season's over for us, that's when we'll stop it. But we're going to continue to keep going with it. So players, coaches, fans, we're going to continue to do this. So we'll have nominations open starting Saturday morning, and then we'll have nominations close at Monday at noon. That's when myself, Alex, and Daryl will have the Gridiron Football Player of the Week article as soon as the show is over. So we'll talk about who are the finalists. We'll narrow down our finalists, and then we'll post those late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. You'll have till Thursday morning at 9 o'clock to donate and vote. Alex, any final thoughts before we wrap up here today?
Not much. This was a great week for votes, as we talked about. Also wanted to give just one last shout out to the Franklin School, Jacob Braid. They came up just short, but it was a great performance, both in the voting and the game. It always stings, right, to put in that much work and to have a performance that impressive and to come up just short, but trying to give him the recognition that he deserves, even though they just missed out, placing second. Congratulations to everybody, 1st through 15. It doesn't matter if you got 4 votes, 10 votes, 14 votes, whatever. If you are on this list, you had a performance deserving of being the Player of the Week. That's how it works. We don't, that's the cut that we're making when we're cutting down to 10, 12, 15 people. So congratulations to everybody. But of course, congratulations to, once again, the Gridiron Football Player of the Week, Tyron Singleton.
Absolutely. Like we said, we narrowed down, like Alex said, we narrowed down our top 15, and these are performances that we see can win Player of the Week. But this ranking we did is not on performance, based on just performances, based on the voting and the fans voting, getting the fans involved. So we appreciate everybody that's voted and everybody that's donated. For Alex Allison, I'm Jace Lanier, and we'll see y'all next week for a Week 9 Gridiron Football Player of the Week show.